All right, question number 2 says, question number 2, AI says, factorize completely the quadratic expression 5x squared minus 9x plus 4. Now, whenever I'm factorizing a quadratic expression, I use the ABC method, utilizing the fact that the quadratic expression 5x squared minus 9x plus 4 is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So the first thing I'm going to do using the ABC method is to find AC. A is 5, C is 4. 5 times 4 is 20. The next thing I would do is I would identify what is B. So B is 19, is minus 9. Now to factorize, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the middle term and factorize by grouping. To split the middle term, I need to find two numbers. When I multiply them together, I get positive 20. When I add the same two numbers together, I'm going to get negative 9. Ladies and gentlemen, the only way you can multiply two numbers and get a positive number and then add the same two numbers and get a negative number is if the two numbers that you're looking for are both negative. So the two numbers I'm looking for are minus 4 and minus 5. So I'm going to use that to replace the middle term. So I have 5x squared minus 4x minus 5x plus 4. Now I'm going to factorize by grouping. Looking at the first two terms, x is common. So I put x outside the bracket. I'm going to now divide. X into 5x squared is 5x. X into 4x is 4. Over to the right, the last two terms, minus 5x plus 4. There's nothing that is common. And when there's no common factor, the common factor is 1. So write back the minus sign and you put 1, then you're going to divide. Minus 1 into minus 5x is 5x. Minus 1 into 4 is minus 4. Now, common now to both sides, it's 5x minus 4. And in the second bracket, I'm going to put x minus 1. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now, we're asked, hence, solve the following equation. Now, when you see hence is saying what you did last must be used in what you're going to do next. So the last thing we did is we factorized the expression 5x squared minus 9x plus 4. We factorized that expression. Now, therefore, we're going to solve this equation using the method of factorization. Now, when you factorize 5x squared minus 9x plus 4, you're going to get 5x minus 4 multiplied by x minus 1, and that is equal to 0. Now, if I'm multiplying two things, or if I'm multiplying two numbers and I'm getting 0, it is either the first number, which is 5x minus 4, that is equal to 0, or the second number, x minus 1, that is equal to 0. Now over to the left, 5x would be equal to 4, or x is equal to 1. Divide back both sides on the left by 5, and we're going to end up with x is equal to 4 over 5, or x is equal to 1. Whenever you solve a quadratic expression, whenever you solve a quadratic equation, you must get two answers. All right, B is subject of formula. Now for B, we're asked to make B the subject. Now, the first thing I would do is I would get rid of the equation. The first thing I would do is I would get rid of the fractions. All right. Now, if I have one fraction is equal to one fraction and I want to get rid of the fractions, what I can do is I can cross multiply. So let's cross multiply. We have what? 1 times 5 plus v, that's 5 plus v. And this is equal to w multiplied by v minus 3. So in my attempt to make w the subject, the first thing I did is I cross multiply to get rid of the fractions. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the brackets by applying distributive law. So we have 5 plus v. W times v is wv minus w times 3, which is 3w. Remember, my objective is to make v the subject. So the next thing I want is I want everything with v in it on one side and everything that don't have in v on the other side. So this is 5 plus 3w. So minus 3w on the right goes over to the left and become negative. And this is equal to wv minus v. So v on the left goes over to the right and become negative. Positive v on the left goes over to the right and become negative. Over to the right, v is common, so I factor out v because I want to make v the subject. V into vw is w, and v into v is 1. Over to the left, I have 5 plus 3w. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by w minus 1. All right, so w minus 1 cancels w minus 1. Over on the right, I'm going to have v, so I'm going to switch it around and say v. And over on the left, I'm going to have what? 5 plus 3w over w minus 1. All right, so v is equal to 3w plus 5 over w minus 1. So what we just did is we just made v the subject of the formula. All right, so now we're at C, and C is on variation. We're told that the height h of an object is directly proportional to the square root of its perimeter p. We're asked to write an equation showing the relationship between h and p. All right, so we're told that the height is directly proportional to the square root of the perimeter. Now, that is a variation statement. So the variation statement, height of the object is directly proportional to the square root of its perimeter, translates into the variation equation h is equal to k multiplied by the square root of the perimeter. So the variation statement, height of the object is directly proportional to the square root of the perimeter, translate into the variation equation h is equal to k multiplied by the square root of p. Next, we're told, given that h is 5.4, when p is 1.44, we're to determine the value of h when p is 2.89. Now, this is a variation question, and a variation question has usually have 4 parts to it. We have just gone through part 1, which is to translate the variation statement into a variation equation. Now, for part 2, we are going to use the value of h and p given to calculate k. So we're told that h is 5.4 when p is 1.44. Putting that in the equation above, we're going to have what? H, which is 5.4, is equal to k, what we don't know, multiplied by the square root of p, which is 1.44. So this is 5.4 is equal to k multiplied by the square root of p. The square root of 1.44 is 1.2. Remember, we're at step 2 of solving a variation question. Now, solving a variation question usually have what? 4 steps to it, and we're at step 2, which is to find k. Now I'm going to divide. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1.2. And when I do that now, I'm going to get k is equal to 5.4 divided by 1.2. And what we get is that k is equal to 4.5. All right, so now I have k, that's step 2. Step 3 is to rewrite the equation. Remember, the equation is h is equal to k, which is 4.5, multiplied by the square root of p. So step 3 is to rewrite the equation and put in the new value of what? K. And step 4, the last step, is to find h given a value of p, or find p given a value of h. In this case, we're going to find h given a value of p. So next I'm going to say when p is equal to 2.89, I'm going to get h is equal to k, which is 4.5, times the square root of p, which is 2.89. So this is 4.5. I think the square root of 2.89 is 1.7. And when you multiply these, you're going to get h is equal to 7.65. H is equal to 7.65. That is the end of the question.